This was my identity.
Nobody talks about how freaking hard it is to be a dentist. What most people talk about is how this affects the patient. What nobody talks about is how this affects us. Dentistry is ready for this. Now is really the time.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Wellness and Dentistry, where you're listening to our 100th episode. We can't even believe this is a reality, but I want to introduce my dear friend and co-host, Dr. Kyle Stanley, who's a dentist, tech entrepreneur, speaker, and researcher. And my name is Dr. Martin Mendelson. I'm a disabled dentist, coach, speaker, and author. And my first book, One Move Makes All the Difference, is available wherever books are sold. And you can also get CE credit for it. But together, we've helped thousands of dental professionals pursue wellness and dentistry. And if you're unfamiliar with us, check out our respective links, websites, and course offerings, including our next live course, Lightside Live, in conjunction with MB2, this coming April 10th and 11th, just around the corner. And so, Kyle, how you doing?
It's crazy that it's been 100 episodes, Martin.
Yeah. Well, you want to hear some really crazy statistics? Because I looked
do.
this up. You ready for this? Only 4.7% of podcasts ever reach 100 episodes.
Wow.
Even hitting 50 happens for only 8.53 percent.
Okay.
If you talk about timing, 75% quit by episode 5, which usually occurs within 6 to 12 months, and around 60% stop within the first 6 months. And about 90% stop after episode 3, and many other quit by episode 20. So it's, how you slice it. But
Wow.
without sounding like we're patting ourselves on the back, I have a theory why we've kept going. You know what
Okay,
it is?
let's hear it.
Because we didn't care about the numbers. We were doing it as a service to people.
Right.
And if one person heard it, that's great. But the truth is, we can go on to some of our platforms. We're being listened to in 6 out of 7 continents.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why it's 6 out of 7 is they don't report on Antarctica. So
I'm sure there's someone down there in a
I'm
tent, one of
some
those
penguin,
holes.
some penguin. Yes. But no, I'm really honored and blessed and grateful. Grateful to you because, man, this was your idea. And truthfully, you said to me, let's do this because you and I can talk all day long, which is totally true. And let's not make this a full-time job, which is
Yep.
really for those that are hardcore listeners. You've probably noticed we don't have guests on. Guests are amazing and it's a lot of work. And
Yeah.
so, at least for now, we've made that decision. And I know you've had this experience too, where people come up to you that you've never even met before. And at a dental meeting or a conference, they're like, I love your podcast. And
Yep.
it means so much. So I'm looking forward to this conversation because I know we're going to kind of jump into a lot of kind of the DM questions we've gotten over the last 100 episodes. It's over, what are we? We're going on our second year, third year? I don't even remember now.
Yeah.
It would
2
be
years.
second year because we
Yeah.
do once a week and
Right.
100 episodes, 52 weeks a year. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. It's, this podcast, we selfishly have fun doing it.
Yeah.
And like Martin said, one of the reasons that we wanted to do this is because we want there to be free access to mental
Yeah.
health training. Both
Yeah.
of us have paid courses. We
Yeah.
have online courses. We have in-person courses that are paid. We have coaching programs, all that you pay for, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes there's people that would never do something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't have the funds.
Yeah.
And we totally get that. And we wanted to help our colleagues have
Mhm.
access
Yeah.
to now over 100 episodes. I mean,
Crazy.
100 episodes, you're looking at least 50 hours worth
Yeah.
of training.
At least.
And
Yeah.
so we're honored to be able to do this. We love when we get that feedback, when you guys DM us or when we see you in person and you say, oh, I love the episode last week. I just got an email about our episode that just went live a few weeks ago. I didn't tell you about it, Martin, but our one about
Mhm.
study clubs.
Mhm.
And someone messaged me and just said, like, I totally agree with what you're talking about. Thanks for doing that episode on study clubs. I've really gotten a lot out of my study club. So we love hearing that. But today, just to make it fun and to make it a little interactive, we're going to go over some questions we've gotten over the last few weeks that we haven't been able to get to because we've been talking about other things.
Yeah.
But everybody that's messaging us, we're getting them, we're getting to them. And so, Martin, I'm going to read you the first one.
Okay.
Okay. Hey guys, love the podcast. How do you personally know when stress is becoming burnout, which instead of just a busy season of dentistry?
Mm, that's a good one. I think that stress versus burnout, I think it has a lot to do with like time frame, right? So let's make this something I think everybody can relate to. I think everybody knows universally that oral surgeons are really busy in August and December, right? Because they're taking out all these wisdom teeth for all these college kids. That can be stressful and that can be really busy, and this season will end. I think it dovetails into the burnout and to the lack of mental wellness area when we start globalizing our thoughts. We start I can't speak, making our thoughts more catastrophic in nature that all my patients are this way, all of my team is this way, nobody wants to work anymore. When we start having those globalistic type of thoughts versus, wow, that was a really hard week. Those three patients were difficult. I'm glad I got through them. That's when I think the scales start to tip. I mean, what do you think? You agree
Well,
or
I go back to the research.
yeah,
I'm a researcher. You and
yeah,
I love
yeah,
proof. We
yeah,
love facts.
yeah.
And when you look at the research on burnout, and this was something I didn't know early on when I started teaching this, but when I started looking into Maslow's research, and she's like the godmother of burnout, really, I think she
Hmm.
actually coined the term burnout,
Hmm.
if I'm correct. Um, it is three things: feeling
Yeah,
exhausted, cynical,
yeah,
and ineffective.
yeah.
And it's funny when I started reading that research and I thought back about my time in what I called burnout or stress or
Mm.
depression or anxiety or whatever, that was exactly what I was feeling. It was exhausted all the time. Every time I come
Hmm.
home, I just want to lay down on the couch. I have nothing left to give to my family. It was feeling cynical about dentistry, walking into the practice and being like, these freaking patients and my
Yeah,
freaking team and, the lab and everything was cynical and ineffective. I was doing
yeah,
good work, but I felt like it wasn't good enough.
yeah.
I felt like I was having more complications than the next person. I was having more patients that were pissed off than the next
Mm.
person. And so some of this stuff is just, I mean, honestly, going back to like this is like the definition of burnout.
Sure. I think the cynicism thing is something that not a lot of people give enough credit to. Because I can certainly say in my own life, my own journey, I can even think back to certain weeks or months in 2025 where I can really remember the cynicism setting in. And if I really am honest with myself now, I was just tired because it was a really
Mm.
busy time and I was not taking enough time for myself. I mean, in the beginning of my book, it starts not with an intro, but a letter from Martin. And it's some of the part of my book that I'm most proud of because it sets the stage immediately and it says something to the effect of, you think people who write books like this on happiness and wellness, they're always happy all the time, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, hell no, right?
Yeah, you're a
And
human.
so I even had a learning lesson this week. So, we always record, before the publication date. And I just got back from a big speaking engagement. I didn't get home until late, late Saturday night. The week before, I didn't get home till Sunday. And this past Monday, I had said to myself, well, I'll take the day off. Well, guess what? I didn't, right? And so it extends the week pretty dramatically. And that I know myself can very easily lead to more cynicism and burnout type of symptoms. So I redirected my schedule. I can do that. I'm not in patient care anymore. Yes, it's a different life. But I redirected my schedule later this week to augment that. But it's like you teach, right? Like the first step is realize, right?
Hmm.
You got to realize that this is a problem in order to fix it. So,
What I want to say about this question too, because they said instead of just a busy season, how do you know if it's
yes.
burnout instead of just a busy season? Is a busy season has an endpoint.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll find yourself going, I can't wait till this is over, or I can't wait till I get to that Friday when I get to go on vacation or go away with my spouse for the weekend, blah, 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 versus the catastrophic kind of thoughts, the cynicism type of thoughts that we've been talking about that are more like, this is just the way it is, right?
Yeah. And like, I'm in a very busy period right now because I'm giving
Hmm.
my
Yeah.
8-week course, Your Best Year Ever. It's 3 different sessions a week, so it's
Yep.
3 hours a week, and I'm things that I'm preparing, getting ready for, and creating things for, and it's a busy one. And I had to tell my wife, like, listen, January and February is going to be very busy,
Yeah.
but come March, things are going to change.
Yeah.
And so that's like, yes, I'm quote unquote grinding, but not
Yeah.
forever. And that was a
Right.
problem. What I did with burnout was like, I didn't have an end point.
Yeah.
I just kept going.
Yeah. Totally. 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 That's a good one.
All right. You want to read our next question?
Yeah, so this was talking about habits, and they're like, really like your podcast. And what's one habit or thought do you think that really helps your mental health slash mental wellness? Signed, a loving listener.
I think for me, it's something that I learned from you, which
Mm,
is coming at difficult situations with curiosity.
yeah,
This really changed my life. It's like being your own devil's advocate, kind of.
yeah,
The best example that I learned from you, and that is very real,
mm,
is this person just cut me off. What
mm,
an asshole.
yeah,
When now I think, let's say 95% of the time, not
yeah,
perfect. Now I think, oh, I wonder if they saw me.
mm-hmm.
Now, if
Yeah,
they saw me and they cut me off, yeah, what an asshole, right?
yeah, of
Or,
course.
or if they saw me and they cut me off, but they're heading to see their sick father who, may not live through the
Hmm.
day. Or they're
Hmm.
picking up their kid at the school nurse that just called and said that they hurt themselves. I don't know
Yeah,
what's happening. And so coming at difficult situations with curiosity instead of immediately judging
yeah.
is a big one. I'm having this right now with one of the companies that I advise.
Hmm.
That there's like a weird relationship happening, and I had to come with curiosity. And it's funny because I assumed something was happening that wasn't happening. And
How
when this
often's
fa
that happen, right?
yeah, and so I was like, oh, this person and they're doing this or that. Well, okay, I'm still, when I text them, going to text them with curiosity, without judgment.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
use some of the communication frameworks that you and I, that you taught me, and
Yeah.
now that we teach together in Lightside Live. And it's funny, he came back and was like, "Oh my gosh, so sorry, we've been totally underwater with stuff. Like, haven't been meaning to blow you off, but da, da,
Yeah.
da." So funny how it worked.
Oh, totally.
And had I come and been like, "Hey, I sent you that email. You wanted to get this back to me. I sent it right back to you, and then what? Nothing from you?
Yeah.
Like that could
Yeah.
have really damaged the relationship."
It's true. It's true. Absolutely. I think I
Any
think
any thoughts
for
for you on this?
I think for me it's similar and different. You've heard me say this before. Um, when I'm challenged by someone else's behavior, I like to say to myself, people do the best they can with the skills they have at the time. And so I'll give you a non-dental example. It just happened. My last trip, I was going to Orlando back and forth, and I had these belts that I bought actually at Toomey specifically because they're travel belts and they're not supposed to go off in the metal
Oh,
detector.
cool.
And
Yeah.
they never do, except this past time. So I went through, it beeped, and the guy goes, yeah, it's your belt. So I took off my belt, put it on the thing, and this guy's, oh, and then I go right back to go through the metal detector again. And this guy goes, hey, the line's back there. And I looked at him and I thought, people do the best they can with the skills they have at the time. And I looked at him and I said, sir, I was just called out of line. And then I went back through again.
Yeah.
And, so this example I'm giving because I wasn't being a doormat,
Mm-hmm.
but I also wasn't, trying to escalate the situation or
Right.
jerk back or whatever else. I was just like, hey, I got called out of line, you know? So
Yeah.
and this goes for a lot of things within dentistry because often what I've said is that this is not a criticism, it's just a reality. Dentists from an educational and financial resource, financial risk perspective, oftentimes have a very different perspective than people on the team. And that's just bad. That's not bad. That's not judgmental. That's not critical. That's just the way it is. And so that difference in perspective and resource and risk can cause people to look at things differently. And if we can embrace the idea that people do the best they can with the skills they have at the time, it de-escalates stuff in our brain to enable us to kind of have a more neutral, calm conversation about stuff, to really figure out what's going on, like in your example,
Yep.
without coming to a conclusion. So,
Yep. Controlling your emotions
yeah,
is such a skill.
yeah.
All right, next question from Janie. She says, "Hi guys, how do you separate your identity from dentistry when this profession demands so much from us and our practices demand so much from us?"
Yeah, that's a good one.
What do you think, Martin?
Well, as somebody who had their identity ripped out from under them, for those that don't know, I'm a disabled dentist and I had to stop practicing overnight and was out of work for 17 months.
That's crazy.
And by the way, that was in 2003. There was no Google the way there is today. And,
Hmm.
it was a nightmare. I mean, I learned later through therapy, it was true defined clinical trauma is what I experienced. Um,
Let me ask you this.
yeah.
Do you think that you aligned your identity with your profession too much to where having it ripped away will, of course, always be traumatic, but
Yeah.
it was worse because of how aligned you were because you had been doing it since you were 16?
I was just going to say that was the big reason because for me, and not everybody has this journey, but for me, I started working in a dental office since I was 16. So as I like to joke in my keynotes that I was that weird kid in high school, like Hermie from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I want to be a dentist. So for a decade before I even became one, it was, oh yeah, that's Martin. He's going to dental school, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I very much identified myself with the journey of becoming one. And then I really got myself into trouble, like Sean Accord talks about in the happiness advantage, when I reached the goalpost of achieving the DDS degree, then it becomes now what, right? And so I'm going to say to you folks, it could be very dangerous to truly align your identity with your profession because we are so much more than that. We are so much more than that.
Yeah, this was a bad one for me.
Yeah.
I love dentistry. People that
Hmm.
know me, you guys know I'm passionate about our profession and I love what we can do. But I was Kyle the dentist
Hmm.
that And I love that. Like, I loved when people would call me Dr.
Yeah.
Stanley on the street or in the
Yeah.
grocery store. I love that. Like, oh, Kyle the dentist. People would introduce me at parties. This is my buddy Kyle. Or no, they would say, this is my buddy Dr. Stanley.
Yeah.
He's a dentist in Beverly Hills. Like, I love that stuff. It really fed my ego. And I was so passionate about dentistry. And so
Hmm.
when I went through this dark time in our
Yeah.
profession, and when I had complications, when I had went through litigation with both a
Yeah.
team member and a patient, my whole self-worth dropped because my entire life, my entire identity was aligned with this profession of dentistry. And when someone sues you and
Yeah.
says you did something wrong, it's like, oh, well, maybe I'm not the person who I thought I was. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Well, and I think for you, there was a magnification. Like for me, the magnification was time. And it seems like for you, the magnification was the status, i.e.,
Yeah.
Beverly Hills. I
Yep.
know you've treated some very, very famous people where you had to
Yeah.
close the whole office down.
Right.
Um, and so talk about identity, right?
Hmm.
It's like I'm the dude who treats, blah, blah, blah celebrity and those
Yeah.
type of people. So and truthfully, it doesn't have to be Beverly Hills. It could be town anywhere USA or anywhere for that matter, where it's like, oh, I treat the mayor or I treat the
Right.
chief whatever at the hospital and blah blah
Yeah, the
blah.
football coach. Yeah.
Yeah, we all do it. We all do it. It's just a matter of what. But why don't you talk about why this is such a challenge? We talked about basically the how and how it comes about. But why is that such a big deal? Why should anybody care?
Yeah, this is a challenge because you're bound to have failures in dentistry.
Yeah.
You're bound to have clinical complications.
Hmm.
You're bound to have times in dentistry where you feel cynical about it. You're bound to have maybe some financial struggles.
Yeah.
And so when you align your whole purpose in life or your whole identity in life with this profession, and then a tooth gets sensitive and the patient's pissed off,
Yeah.
or, an implant gets bone loss after 7 years and the patient can't believe that they paid all this money and now they're going to have to
Yeah.
get it redone or they're going to have to get a bone graft or whatever it is, then you feel like a loser. Not
Yeah.
you, the dentist, you,
Nope.
the person, feels like a
Yep.
loser. And that was where I was in this dark place where on the outside, everybody was praising me. And on the inside, I was feeling like I'm such a loser. I'm such a fake.
Yeah. In my book, I talk a lot about imposter syndrome, which is kind of also what you were leading into. And I talk about the screaming imposter syndrome that I used to get when I worked at Spear, because I was the MC for the seminars for a long time. And part of that role was to actually do Q&A with most of the time Frank Spear and Greg Kinzer, like no pressure, right?
Yeah.
And so I used to tell myself, like, who am I to be doing this? I'm the disabled
Hmm.
dentist. And I finally had a realization one day. I'm like, wait a minute. You know, I was in practice for 10 years. I worked for a lab. I called on more cases than dentists ever see in their lifetime. Then I went to Vita and I had to learn material science. Now I'm sitting at Spear and I'm hearing these same lectures over and over and over again. If nothing else, I'm as qualified as anybody else sitting in the audience to simply be asking a question that somebody else wrote. And it was very liberating for me because I gave myself permission to be the human and not screaming at myself for what I wasn't, right?
Hmm.
And so it's a kind of a parallel kind of example, I guess, in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. Thank you for
Yeah,
the
I like it.
question.
Like it, like it.
All right. Which one we got next?
So let me see which one I want to go to. Well, actually, so we kind of answered this. So Shelley asked about dealing with self-doubt or imposter syndrome. How do you feel? Do we answer that, or is there something else we missed?
It's weird. I didn't know what imposter syndrome was
Yeah.
until I started going through my,
Yeah.
personal exploration, let's
Mhm.
say, on self-exploration, understanding myself, personal growth.
Yeah.
When I look back on it, I think I did have some of that. And for me, it was just because I didn't think you should have complications, or I didn't think that everybody had patients that were nightmares. I thought it
Yeah.
was only just me. And then once I started talking about it and people started saying, I have patients just like that. Or my brother or my dad said, oh, I had patients just like that. Or, my business partners who, one of them had been practicing 20 years longer than me. And Mark would say like, oh yeah, I've had so many of those patients. Like I just felt normal. And then that's when my imposter syndrome went away.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big things that people get out of our live courses is sitting around with other people and going, oh my gosh, I had a patient just like that, or I had a hygienist just like that, or,
Mhm.
I had this happen with my family and
Yep.
this work-life balance thing. And there's something about knowing that you're not the outlier, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Because for me, like you were saying, there was a lot of status, there was a lot of ego with where I was. And then when all this stuff happened, it was like all that crashed so fast because I thought that I was the only person that was like successful in treating celebrities that had problems, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
had nothing to do with all that status stuff.
No.
Every practice, every doctor has
Yeah.
complications, has staff member
Yeah.
problems. And so once I learned that I was normal, it was very helpful for my mental health.
And fun fact, ladies and gentlemen, research shows that the higher your level of education, the more likely you are to have imposter syndrome. And women are disproportionately affected by a higher margin than men,
Interesting.
largely due to societal pressures and, should be doing this and should be doing that, i.e., I'm a failed mom or I'm a failed executive, blah, 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 because you're trying to do two things at once because that's what society supposedly dictates. So
It's funny what
it's
you're saying about the more educated you are, the more likely
Mhm.
you are to have
Yeah.
imposter syndrome. Because I remember I was giving a lecture and there was someone in the room that either was a spouse or was working the event or something like this. They
Hmm.
weren't a dentist. And
Yeah.
I think they were kind of a lower level employee.
Okay.
They came to me and said, I think you had a hard time with it because you had more, what did he say? You fell from a higher podium, basically.
Oh, interesting.
And
Yeah.
basically, what he was telling me was, I came from nothing. My parents were dishwashers. I did this
Yeah.
and that. And I failed, or I went through difficult times, but I recovered so quickly because no one expected anything of me.
It's very interesting.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
And it was
Very.
the first time I had really thought about that. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're a dentist, you're highly educated. My family, my dad's a dentist. I
Hmm.
come
Hmm.
from this. Like,
Yeah.
I am put higher on a pedestal and I'm expected to
Yeah.
succeed. So if I fall, like, I'm crashing from the top,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was really interesting to hear.
Well, here's the crazy thing, just about like happiness of life and everything else. So I quote this research in my book. Sean Akora quotes it in his book. In fact, it's one of the pieces of research that really caught my attention in my initial studies about happiness. It's a meta-analysis by Luba Mirsky, and she evaluated 200 studies that had
A lot of
somewhere in the
studies.
order of 275,000 people involved and all over the world, different ethnicities, places in life, net worth, education, family, you get the idea. And what drove people's happiness and contentment in life is not the fact that they were a Beverly Hills dentist. It was the journey in life that they experienced. So the people that actually had less in many ways were happier than the people who had more because the people who had more were looking to these goal achievement markers as a level of, oh, okay, now I made it versus I'm a good person. I'm good. I don't need all that stuff. It's fascinating. It's really, really fascinating.
Okay, I've got another question.
Yeah,
This
hit
is
me.
from Richard in Virginia.
Yeah.
Hey guys, how do you support your spouse or your family when dentistry is clearly impacting your home life?
Hmm. I've seen this a lot with my coaching clients actually, and some of them have dental spouses, some of them don't. I think it has a lot to do with transparency builds trust. My favorite Justin Patton-ism.
I was
Like,
quoting that quote on
yeah,
my call yesterday.
yeah. And and it can be something as simple as, hey, when I get home, I just need 5 minutes just to kind of decompress. And
Mm.
I want to share with you this is nothing about my love for you, my love for the family, etc. Um, but it also has everything to do with them, meaning I need to be able to have this decompression time to be able to be present for you. I think that the worst thing we can do, I mean, I've been with Michael for 30 years, and I think the worst thing we can do is not communicate.
Yeah.
Because when we don't communicate, what do we leave open? We leave interpretation open, right?
Assumption. Hmm.
Yeah. So I think it has everything to do with communication and transparency. And
Yeah.
even if it's because I've done this, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I don't feel right today.
Hmm.
I need you to know that. And so if I snap or something, just please understand. I'm having a hard day.
Yeah.
And think about that hearing, from the other side. I mean, that alone can really change the dynamic of any relationship, whether, you're married or not, whether you've been together 30 years or 3 days, it doesn't matter. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, you know what they say about in the Grant study that
Yeah.
happened at Harvard, which is studied groups of people for over 70 years, is they say that relationships are stress relievers. Good relationships are stress
Yeah.
relievers.
Yeah.
And so I like what you said. And this still happens with me and my wife. I mean, sometimes, my wife is home with the kids all day, and that can be absolutely crazy. I mean, like, they're at, Mom, I need
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Mom, I need this. Mom,
Yeah.
come here. Wipe my butt. Mom, I'm hungry. Mom. Like, sometimes I'll come home and she's like, I just need to go in my room
Hmm.
and like lock the door. Can you just
Yeah.
watch the kids for a little bit,
Yeah.
right? And I'm glad that I can support her in that.
Hmm.
I wish that I had communicated more to her when I was going through a hard time.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I didn't have the self-realization until I was all the way at the bottom,
Sure.
but I know that she missed me emotionally, physically being there. Um, but how I would answer this question, which is like, how do you support your spouse or your family when dentistry is clearly impacting your home
Mhm.
life? I would say focus on yourself first.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy because you're like, I want to help my family out, but you can't help them unless you're in a good place. So that
Yep.
means taking care of yourself physically, taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, exercising, eating right, all of that stuff impacts how you can show up for them.
Yep.
Because even just like understanding that there's a stimulus and the response, a space between the stimulus and the response. This is such a skill. It's
Hmm.
something you and I have been working on for many years.
Yep.
If you learn that technique, you can still have the same bad day at dentistry that you would have had, but it doesn't impact you as much. And you can still come home from that bad day and still be present and support your family.
It's funny. I had a situation the last day, yesterday into today, which I think is a really good example. So there's a speaking engagement that's been on the table for over 2 years. It got delayed, blah, blah, blah. And I got an email yesterday saying, oh, okay, so this is the way, you're doing this and this, and it was totally counter to what we had originally talked about.
Oh,
And the
wow.
old me would have gotten pissed off. And then between the time of reading that email and the conversation, I would have been anxious about it.
Yeah.
But I've worked so hard that I simply worked really hard with AI back and forth to create a really positive email that literally said at one point, this is not to create friction, this is to create alignment. It was
Hmm.
literally one of the lines. And I wasn't even upset running up to the conversation, just had the conversation about an hour ago, and we're good. Now, is what's going to happen different than the original discussion, agreement, and understanding? Yes. But do I understand why? Am I okay with it? And is it maybe actually going to be better?
Mm.
Yeah. And so we have this with our team members, right? Somebody's showing up late over and over, and we stress out about it and we don't say anything and trying to figure out how to deal with it. I mean, the stuff that goes on between our ears, we can make up all this stuff that gets in our way versus just thinking about how to deal with it. Which again is a skill and it doesn't happen overnight and it is a journey, that's for damn sure. But I got to tell you, I used to be the worst offender of the, anxiety running up to having these kind of interactions. And I've taken a complete 180. And now I look forward to finding the alignment versus finding the problem, if you will.
And
So,
for people that are listening, that is a skill
yeah.
that Martin has worked on. He's
Yeah.
put time and money and effort into this, and it's paid off in his
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like there's this other question, and I'll just read it.
Yeah.
It says, "Hey guys, love the pod. If you could go back and give your younger dentist self one piece of wellness advice, what would it be?"
I got mine. It's kind of in two parts, but I got
Okay.
mine. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
So it's basically like it's all gonna work out. And the second part is 85% of all the excuse me shit you're worrying about is never gonna happen.
Mm,
That would be the advice. Because honestly, I don't like the word regret. I really don't, because as we said earlier, I did the best I could with the skills I had at the time, in any time. But I
such a
think the
great
one
quote.
regret I do have is not learning this stuff earlier because I suffered for years, lost nights of sleep, and um, I see now how beautiful my life can be when you're living in a different way of processing situations, emotions, reactions, realities. And I just wish I learned that earlier,
Hmm.
just to not get so worked up over things.
Yeah, talk about learning it earlier, guys. If you haven't learned this stuff, come hang out with us April
Yeah.
10th and 11th in Dallas. So go to our website, Wellness and Dentistry. You can click on the links and you'll see Lightside Live. It'll give you all the information. This one is specifically for MB2 doctors, but
Hmm.
also you can join it if you become a Carabelli Club member. Carabelli
Yep.
Club is the buying group that my practice is a part of, and we're going to save about $20,000 this year with
Hmm.
that club. So go check that out and don't wait to learn this stuff.
Nope.
One of the things for me, I think if I had one, it's hard to give me one advice because I kind of have five or six real big
Yeah.
takeaways from my personal growth journey.
Yeah.
But one of them is this: focus on what you can control.
Oh yeah. Big
Don't
commitment.
focus on what you can't control.
Yeah.
But there's nuance to that.
Sure.
So, like, if you say, oh, well, this patient is always angry when they come in and after I give them a treatment plan.
Hmm.
So, what can you control in that? You can control how you show up, how you
Hmm.
look, how you feel. Did you sleep the night before? Did you eat well? Have you learned how to do great communication?
Yeah.
Have you set good boundaries with this patient? Have you set good expectations with this patient?
Yeah.
What frameworks are you using for case acceptance, for example?
Or
So
even even how you talk to the person. Like we teach
yes,
frameworks literally about how to talk to people, let alone case acceptance.
yeah, you can control all of that.
Yeah.
You cannot control how they react.
Yeah. And
All
they're
you can control
reacting.
is what you can do. But
Yeah.
if you can control it, then then you should control it. And I
And
think this is where I see dentists make a mistake is they will say, here's something I could do, but I don't do it.
yeah.
But here's all this other stuff that I have no control over, but that's what I'm going to worry about.
Yeah. Well, and also again goes back to people do the best they can with the skills they have at the time. Like maybe that person gets upset every time because money isn't easy for them. Or
Yeah,
maybe they're helping to support a parent or a child
right.
or a sibling. And you have no idea in many cases what the hell's going on with people. And so people's reactions are based upon their lives. And so uh there's a bit of grace that we have with these interactions. And I like what you said because you said every time we give them a treatment plan, an exam, and a treatment plan, they get, well, something you can control is actually how you approach that situation using a communication framework. It's like, hey, Mrs. Jones, remember the last time we talked about X and then the other time we talked about Y and blah, 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 blah. How do you think we could kind of interact and have me share with you what I see in a way that may not be so upsetting to you or words
Yeah.
to that effect, right?
Yep.
You can control that.
Yep.
Now, if that person still flies off the handle, okay, fine. But at least you attempted to do something different around the things that you can control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Any other questions, Martin? Do we have any other ones?
This has been a lot. This has been a lot
We
for,
have done a lot.
yeah.
Sorry if we didn't get to your question.
Yeah.
Keep sending them in. We'll have more of these
We'll get
listener
there. We'll get
questions
there.
episodes. But I just want to say to you, Martin, thank you.
Yeah, you too,
Thanks
man.
for spending 50 plus hours with me.
Yeah. Yeah. It is fun
And
though. Because we get to sit and chat and we often get complimented when we teach together that it's like we've known each other for many more years than we actually have in reality. It's getting up there because it's about 6 years. But even when we were first teaching together, people were like, how long have you been doing this together? You like finish each other's sentences. We're like, we've done it twice. So
yeah,
yeah, it's kind of funny. This is a not only a great collegial relationship, but it's a great friendship. So thank
yeah.
you as well. So
And this is what dentistry is about. We are so interested in helping you guys, of course, giving you free resources like this
mhm.
podcast. And if you want to move past the podcast and do other things, we have online courses, we have in-person courses. You've heard us talk about our course on April 10th and 11th. We'd love to see you there. We love meeting people that
Yeah,
come to our live courses and they say, "Oh, I started listening to your podcast." So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really cool. And to think that we hit 100 episodes, I mean, that's wild.
It's really funny too, because think about it, folks. Even if you've never done a podcast recording ever before in your life, it's just you and the other person talking. So it is a little obtuse that other people are listening to you. And
Right.
so, in all candor, when someone comes up and says, "Oh man," it just happened this past week. He said, "I love your podcast. It's one of the best out there. Really, thank you for what you do." And I'm like, oh, you're listening? Like,
Yeah,
just
we
such,
kind of forget.
we
Yeah, we kind
do.
of
It's
forget
really
because we
funny.
make them put them out and we don't really look at the numbers or anything. So,
Yeah, no, no, no. We just do it. So
yeah. Well, guys,
cool.
thanks for joining us. We're stoked on 100 episodes, and hopefully we see you on the next 100 episodes. Thanks for listening today. Talk to
Take
you
care.
later.